Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Bhagavatam. Today we're talking about a civilized society. What does it mean to be civilized? What does it mean to be a civilized human being? Are we civilized because we eat with forks and knives? Because we dress in suits and ties? Are we civilized because we shake hands and hug? Do our technological marvels and scientific advancements certify that we are civilized? What is the sign of a civilized person? The Western society has its own definitions, but I don't tend to agree with them. Behind the veneer of this pseudo-civilization is a lot of decay and rot. We look good, but we have nasty thoughts. We have good manners, but we are envious and critical of each other. We dress up, look our best, put it all on display in Facebook or Instagram. But does looking good mean we are actually feeling good? The Vedas, the ancient Vedas of India, speak of a civilization where the symptoms of a civilized person were not his external appearance, but rather their spiritual advancement. And you knew that someone was advanced if they were kind, compassionate, equipoised, equanimous, patient, tolerant, in control of their mind and senses, unaffected by situations and people, and above all, if they were in touch with Dharma, their duty to one another, to family, to country, to nature, and above all, to God. Let us learn today from the ancient wisdom of the Vedas that was revealed to us by the wisest people that ever lived on this planet. So, what does it mean to be civilized? That's really the conversation for today. And before we get started, I'm going to introduce you to a few of the characters that are going to be featured in our discussion. So the first of them is Narad. This is a picture of Narad Muni. And he's a great sage, very highly enlightened being, and is shown in different times in the Vedas. Of course, these are artist depictions. All right. And he is, of course, talking to King Yudhishthir. I forgot to mention that. So he's talking to the great king who was ruling the planet at that time. Now, Yudhishthir has been asking Narad questions, and that's what kings in ancient times did. They sought wisdom from the wise. Right? Where else would you get it from? Right? So Narad is speaking to him, and he starts talking about one of the first symptoms of a civilized society, and that is sacrifice. Surprising, right? In today's time, nobody talks of sacrifice. Everybody talks about me. They talk about what's in it for me. What can I get out of this? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's any activity that we do, what's in it for me? But the first thing Narad is pointing out here, that the first sign of a civilized society is a society that doesn't live for me, but it lives for sacrifice. What is this sacrifice? Sacrifice is of everything we have and everything we do and everything that we are. Why? Because a spiritual society, an evolved society, recognizes and understands that nothing belongs to me. Everything was given to me by the blessings and grace of God. I did not design this body, right? The way I look, the country I was born in, the parents I was born to, even they didn't construct my body. They didn't put together the eyes, the nose, the ears and say, well, this is how I want my son to look. They didn't. It just happened. And the important thing to understand is that since it all just happened, who's behind it? And if that which is behind it is that which we call God or source or universe or whatever word you like to use or whatever name you like to give God, regardless of that, what are you going to do back for that? The famous JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He was speaking on the same lines. What is it that you can give back? And likewise, even when you're in a relationship, what are you giving to your partner? When you're with children, what are you giving to them? When you're at work, what are you giving to your work? What are you willing to sacrifice? Your energy, your time, your talents, your abilities, all of which were given to you by the grace of God and all of which need to be offered back to God. So he begins with the idea of sacrifice. One should perform sacrifice. How do you do that? By offering, and this is the very simple act, by offering food, which you eat anyway, prepared in ghee, with good ingredients, with love, to God and to the saintly persons. See, it's not just about sitting and praying to God. It's not just about meditating on God, but one must do something, one act of service. And it begins by taking the very things that you do and offering them to God. Whether it's your work, whether it's the food you eat, whether it's the house you live in, all of that needs to be done as an offering to God. So he says, when you start with this simple act by offering your food that is prepared with love and devotion to God and to saintly persons, this act is very pleasing to the divine, the Supreme Lord. He is never pleased, however, when animals are eaten or sacrificed. A lot of people don't understand this. In many religions of the world, they teach you to eat animals. But actually, the animals are also created by God. And they also have souls within them. And many will say, no, the animals don't have souls. Only humans have souls. You know, a soul is required to make matter move. Matter cannot move by itself. Just as much as your light bulb cannot light up by itself. It needs electricity. It needs energy. So that energy of electricity enters into the light bulb and then the bulb lights up. Gasoline for your car. Likewise, soul or spirit energy is needed to move the human body or the animal body or the insect body or the plant body. Nothing can move without life. Life force energy is what is required to make matter move. Otherwise, it cannot move. When the soul leaves the body, even this body cannot move. No one can make it move. The way it moves so easily now. Now you can jump, now you can sing, now you can dance, now you can do all kinds of things. As long as the soul is present in this body. But the moment it leaves, poof, the body drops dead. Just as you take off these clothes and you take, right now they're moving with your body. But when you take them off, they just drop and collapse onto the floor. They cannot move on their own. So it is this symptom of life that causes the human to become alive, causes the animal to be alive, and causes the plant to be alive, but all in different ways. These are different kinds of bodies, just as a motorcycle is different from a car, and a car is different from a truck. So similarly, there are different kinds of bodies as there are different kinds of vehicles. One must understand things scientifically, not on the matter of belief. It is a matter of spiritual science that we need to understand. And it is that that makes up all the difference in our life. Then he says that persons who want to advance in Dharma or spirituality are advised to give up all envy of other living entities, whether in relationship to the body, words, or mind. There is no religion superior to this. Okay, let's just pause a second here and let's analyze what he just said. One must give up all envy of other living entities. Whoa. Are we really envious of others? We don't even want to admit it. We don't want to admit it, do we? If I ask you, are you envious of others? And you'll say, oh no, I'm not. I'm not. Why would I be envious of anybody? But then, when you see someone has greater talents than you, when someone looks more beautiful than you, when someone is more intelligent or more materially rich or has got all kinds of fancy things that you wish you had, oh yeah, we get envious. And let's not kid ourselves. Envy comes very easily and very naturally to us. To give up envy is very difficult. We'll go into the root of it. How do you do that? But let's read further. Because envy can only be given up when you give up desire. As long as you think that the things of the world make up who you are, as long as you think you are this body, as long as you think that the things you have are you, or make you better, or superior, or in any way greater than others, that's your ego talking, you're going to be subjected to envy. It is inevitable. Narad then says, even if one is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together. This is radical. This is utterly radical. He's saying that even if one is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together. Just as a great python, although lying in one place, not endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs for sustenance, one who is desireless also obtains his livelihood without endeavor. In the Bible, Christ says, you see the birds in the trees, they neither sow, neither do they reap into barns, yet your heavenly Father provided for them. Are you not much better than they? This same statement was made by Narad Muni, thousands of years before Christ. Narad is an extremely wise being, and his wisdom is what we're learning about today. He then goes on to say, one who is content and satisfied and links his activities with the Supreme, with God. One who is content and satisfied. So how do you get content and satisfied? It's an art. That's what spirituality is about. Learning this art. And when you learn it, you learn that it comes naturally. It's not something you will do externally. Oh no, I'm going to be content, I'm going to be content, I'm going to be content. No, you're not going to do it as a mantra or an affirmation or a thing you tell yourself. You're not going to brainwash yourself into being content and satisfied. It is something that will naturally follow your spiritual progress. See, there are symptoms of spiritual advancement. Spiritual advancement is not just some whimsical thing that anybody can come along and just kind of like, make up some story, make up some, theories of their own. No. Content and satisfied. This is some of the symptoms. So one is who is content and satisfied, who links his activities to the Supreme, enjoys transcendental happiness without excessive endeavor. Oh my gosh, listen to this. Who links his activities with the Supreme. What does that mean? I can tell you in one simple line. It's from a song. Everything I do it for you. It's a love song. And that's the love song we need to have with God. With that divine presence, with that divine being, with that source of everything. Everything I do it for you. When you have that attitude, that is called devotion. That is called bhakti. That is called divine love, where you connect everything. So yoga means connection with the divine. The ultimate way of connecting, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about it, is to do everything you do as an offering to the divine. To offer all your possessions, your body, your mind, your activities, everything to God. And he says here that one who does this enjoys transcendental happiness without excessive endeavor. What is transcendental happiness? You may ask. It is happiness that arises from within you, not from outside you. It has no cause. Nothing has happened. Nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. It arises spontaneously from within you. Then he says, where is such happiness for a materialistic person who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth? I want to be very clear. When the word lust is used here, it doesn't only mean sex. It means desire. Okay? So lust and greed are talked about. A materialistic person is impelled by lust and greed. Do you understand this? We all have desires. You cannot take desire away from a person. Okay? Having said that, the whole point is to give up desire. Now, how can you do these two things? You can't take it away, and yet it is there. It is inevitable. It is, we've all got it. Yes, there is a way. By making God the source of everything, the divine presence that is there in all of us and all around us, making God the object of our desire. When you want God more than you want anything else in the world, anyone else or anything else, then you will get God. When that becomes your one-pointed focus, focus is what matters. Even if you want to make money, focus matters. Your commitment matters. Your devotion matters to your business, to your work, to your job. But imagine if you had that same focus, that dedication, that devotion with God. He goes on, for a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there is no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there is no distress. Indeed, he feels happiness everywhere. Would you like that? Would you like to be in this place of feeling happy everywhere? Feeling happy under all circumstances. Feeling happy whether there is a job or not a job. Whether your business goes up or it goes down. Whether there is food or there is no food. Whether there is a house or there is no house. It is possible. I tell you this because I've experienced it. I may not be there at the highest level that he's talking about, but I've experienced it. I know it's possible. A self-satisfied person can be happy even with only drinking water. However, one who is driven by the senses, especially by the tongue and genitals, must accept the position of a household dog to satisfy his senses. What does that mean? It means being dependent on others. A household dog is dependent on others, who will then give him some food to eat. Similarly, we are driven by our senses and therefore in relationship, and we are hoping that that person will give us the pleasure that we want, whether that pleasure is of sex or the pleasure is of food or the pleasure is of being supported or getting money or getting whatever else it is that we want from that other person. But we live like a household dog. That's what he's pointing out. It's bitter truth, hard reality. It's hard to accept. I know. But that's the point. That's the point. To be able to really examine life without any holds barred, to really peel off the layers of illusion, to peel off all the stuff that we have that keeps us busy and in the treadmill of life. Sages and wise people like this endeavor to wake us up. Because it is only when we are awakened that we can begin to understand who we are, why we're here, what is the purpose of life, who is God, what is this whole thing that's going on, why am I not happy, why am I not satisfied, why am I depressed, why am I anxious, why am I fearful? Only then, when we wake up, can we begin to understand it. Because in a dream, things look terrible sometimes. Sometimes you're being chased by a tiger. Sometimes you're having horrible things happening, gangsters following you. But when you wake up, you realize there's nothing. Narad continues, the spiritual strength, education, austerity, and reputation of one who is not self-satisfied dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. So, people think they are spiritual because they might have read some books or they might have attended some workshops or some courses. But you'll find out whether a person is truly spiritual if they are self-satisfied. And if that self-satisfaction is consistent. If it is not consistent, they will dwindle and their knowledge will vanish. They may have knowledge, but can they live that knowledge? They may have an understanding of things, but can they actually manifest that, express that, live that? It's not enough to know. One has to actualize. One has to spiritually actualize the wisdom of the ages. And that requires a process. Narad says, the strong bodily desires and needs of a person disturbed by hunger and thirst are certainly satisfied when he eats. Similarly, if one becomes very angry, that anger is satisfied by chastisement and its reaction. Right? You yell at someone, you scream at someone, you may feel your anger is getting appeased. I don't think it really is, but okay. But if a greedy person has conquered all the directions of the world or enjoyed everything in the world, he will still not be satisfied. Think about this. For all those of you that have been infected by the idea of law of attraction or of being able to manifest whatever you desire, this is the opposite of that. This is telling you that is all nonsense. Why do you want what you want? Think about it. Why is this whole system using spirituality to turn you into a greedy person? Why is it being looked at that only the person who has millions of dollars is successful? No, that is not the successful person. That is not the civilized person. That is not the highly evolved person. Just because you have doesn't mean you're great. I'm sorry, it means nothing. It's just paper. It's stuff. And stuff you will leave behind when you leave this body. You cannot take it with you. Your spiritual growth, on the other hand, the wisdom you have gained, that you have lived, yet you have realized, that is your eternal asset. That can never be lost, not even with death. So if you want to get that eternal wealth, then learn. This is the time, this is the place. And it begins by hearing about this incredible wisdom in the Vedas. So then Narad goes on, he says, many great scholars and political leaders have fallen down due to not being satisfied with their positions. You can see, they get more greedy, they get more ambitious, they want more and more and more. And as they try to get more out of their situations and try to control more, they inevitably, because of their dissatisfaction, they end up doing stupid things. And those stupid things are ultimately their downfall. So there are 4 things that are going to be talked about here: lust, anger, greed, and fear. If we go to Narad Muni's teaching about that, we'll go back to the Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita, I think you should. I've done an entire playlist on my YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with my channel, it's called Spiritual Awakening. Please go there. There's an entire playlist on the Bhagavad Gita. Gita is an easy way to remember, G-I-T-A. So the Bhagavad Gita says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, so contemplating the objects of the senses. When do we contemplate the objects of the senses? Well, advertisers do it all the time to us. We're walking around the beach, you might be seeing a sexy or handsome looking man or woman. When you're looking at the things you want for Christmas, you're contemplating the objects of the senses. You go to a store, these are all objects of sense, things that will give you pleasure, things that will supposedly make you feel good. So when contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. I want this. And when you get it, then you're attached to it. So from such attachment, lust or desire develops. Now from desire, anger arises. Why? What is the connection between desire and anger? See, if I get what I want, I'm happy, right? But what if I don't get what I want? Then I'm disappointed. Then I'm frustrated. I might even be angry. And now let's say I get what I want and something happens to that. I get a beautiful car and then someone bangs into it or scratches it or does something to it. Oh my God, we're going to be terribly angry. Right? Or you get a new house, or you have a partner, you find this person, and now they do something, or they say something. From desire, anger arises. From anger, delusion arises. Delusion? What? Because now you lose your senses because you're so angry. Because you say stupid things when you're angry. You do stupid things when you're angry. So he says, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. You forget what is right, what is wrong, what should be done, what should not be done. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. I was hearing from someone who was telling me that so many people land up in jail, and especially in death row, because having murdered someone, because they were angry. Their partner was with somebody else, let's say. They caught them. And then they ended up killing them. There was even a movie called Chicago where these women are all in the jail and they're all singing, "He deserved it, he deserved it, he deserved it." And they killed. Why? Because their partner was cheating on them. So he deserved it. Now they're in jail. What good did it do them to kill their partner? But it was anger in that moment. Right? And most times where there is murder like that, it is because of momentary anger. Loss of intelligence, and then one falls down into this horrible situation. So therefore the Bhagavad Gita says one who can control his senses by practicing spiritual principles and by the mercy of God will become free from all attachment and aversion. These two things work hand in hand. I want, I don't want. I love you, I hate you. Right? Don't we go through that? This 1 minute we're loving somebody and then the next minute we're hating them. Or if that person does something we don't like, let's say cheats on us or does whatever else we think is wrong or they shouldn't have done, now we hate them with passion, with the same passion with which we love them. That's why they say love and hate are opposite sides of the same coin. But one must become free from both attachment and aversion. Because only by getting past that duality of I like, I dislike, I agree, I disagree, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, that is called duality. But when you go beyond that, then you are able to enter into divine consciousness. The miseries of material existence then no longer exist. When you go past the duality. Where is the duality? Duality is in the mind. The mind is constantly working at positive and negative. When you go beyond that, you enter into the realm of non-duality. And at that place, the miseries of material existence no longer exist. Just as much as when you're flying in an airplane, the stuff that's happening below, whether it's hot or it's cold or whatever, doesn't bother you anymore. So he says the miseries of material existence no longer exist. In such a happy state, one's intelligence soon becomes steady. This is a different kind of intelligence. This is wisdom that now becomes steady. One who is not in divine consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be happiness without peace? How can there be happiness without peace? You want happiness. Our whole society gears around telling us the pursuit of happiness. But the Bhagavad Gita tells us, how can there be happiness without peace? If you want happiness, it is a byproduct of peace. And peace you cannot have as long as your mind is in control of you. Peace you cannot have as long as you are being bullied by your mind, driven by your mind telling you to buy this, buy that, go here, go there, do this, do that, how can you have peace? You must become free of your mind. Then only will there be peace. Peace is not about some situation in world politics. Peace is about you, about your mind, about me, about all of us. Now we come back to Narad. Narad says, with great determination, one should give up lusty desires for sense gratification. Okay, think about it now. Sense gratification, right? Why are they making such a big deal out of it? After all, we all want to gratify our senses. We all want to enjoy, don't we? We enjoy pleasure. But think about it. This pleasure, what's the price you pay? You work hard day and night to earn the money, which you then go out and you buy the food and the clothes and the things you want so you can enjoy your senses. How long does that last? A few seconds, a few moments, a few minutes, maybe a half hour, maybe an hour. You want to have a lovely partner so you can enjoy your senses with them, have nice sex with them. How long does that last? The actual act, how long does it last? Very little. And for that, you're devoting your entire life. For that, you're dedicating your energy, your intelligence, your everything to gratify your senses. The moment you understand this, that you are like a horse or a donkey that is being pulled without realizing where it's being pulled to, why it's going there, why do you want what you want? Right? The moment you understand that you and what desire is, and you let go of the desire for sense gratification, you can very easily give up envy and conquer anger. Whoa, really? How is the connection here? See, desire for sense gratification particularly, is what causes envy. The other person has more than you do. The other person has something you don't have. Right? And then that envy leads us to anger, as we talked about earlier. I won't repeat myself now. So he says, by discussing the disadvantages of accumulating wealth, one should give up greed. By discussing the truth, one should give up fear. Oh, really? Discussing the truth will make you give up fear? Yes. The ultimate truth is this. What? That we are here struggling for nothing. That whatever we have will be lost. Find that which can never be lost. Find the ultimate truth. That upon gaining which you will gain happiness here and now, not in some kingdom out there far away, in some heaven or whatever. Right here, right now, where you will become unaffected by the situations that life throws at you, or the things people say to you, or the things people do to you. Unaffected. Yes, that's right. That kind of truth makes you not only happy, but it also makes you give up fear. You go beyond fear. Why is there fear? We are fearful because we are perishable. We live in this body-mind organism that we live inside. And this body-mind organism is fragile. And because of its fragility, we are scared. Right? Because of its fragility, we are naturally fearful. But by listening to spiritual wisdom, one can conquer this fear. One can conquer lamentation. One can conquer the illusions of this world. And then he says, by serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. Serving. Who? Great devotees, people who are devoted to the divine, to God. One can become prideless. By becoming silent, one can avoid obstacles on the spiritual path. Silence is very important. Very important. What is that silence we're talking about? It's not just to shut your mouth. Silence is inner silence. The mind being silent. I'll go back to another statement of the Bible where it says, be still and know that I am God. Be still. That stillness is silence. That silence, you experience the divine. It's no longer a question of belief anymore. It's no longer a question of some faith anymore. You now have an experience. And that experience will help you avoid all the obstacles on your spiritual path. By being free from envy, one will not suffer due to other living entities. By meditating in trance, one will counteract sufferings due to providence. By practicing hatha yoga, pranayama, etc., one will counteract sufferings caused by the body and mind. By developing the mode of goodness, especially in regard to eating, one can conquer sleep. Now, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down. I'm going to be answering all questions at the end of this reading and explanation that I'm doing right now. So feel free to write down all your questions and comments and anything you might be thinking as we're talking, because you might forget later on what you thought about at an earlier time. So please feel free to write down your comments. By serving the guru or the spiritual master with faith and devotion, one can rise above the modes of nature, the influence of nature. Or modes of nature can be the sufferings that are caused not only by nature, but also by your own body and mind, and also by other living beings. The spiritual master or guru gives transcendental knowledge for enlightenment. One who thinks of him as an ordinary human being, or him or her as an ordinary human being, will lose their enlightenment and spiritual knowledge like the bathing of an elephant. So what is this bathing of an elephant? An elephant is known to go into the water, have a nice bath, and then come out and then pick up dust or dirt from the bank of the river and throw it back on himself. So once again, he's dirty, right? So in the same way, a person who goes to a spiritual master to learn for transcendental knowledge, and by the way, one should go in the mood of humility, like Arjun did when he went to Krishna. He says, I'm confused about my duty. I don't know what to do. Please help me. In that mood, one learns. But if you think you know, then there's nothing you will learn. Anyway, so one who thinks of the spiritual master or guru as an ordinary human being will lose his enlightenment and spiritual knowledge, like the bathing of an elephant. The Supreme Godhead, Sri Krishna, Supreme Being, Supreme Godhead, we call him Krishna. Krishna means the all-attractive one, is the master of all living entities and of the material nature. His lotus feet are worshipped by great saintly persons. Nonetheless, there are fools who consider him to be an ordinary human being. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I descend millennium after millennium to annihilate the miscreants and to protect and relate with and give love to my devotees, those who love me. Narad then says, rituals, ceremonies, worship, austerities, and yoga practices are all meant for meditation on the Supreme Lord. See, a lot of people don't get this. That the objective of all your yoga practice, the objective of all worship, the objective of all the rituals and ceremonies are for meditating on the divine, the Supreme Being. If they do not lead to this point, they are simply labor in frustration. One who wishes to be enlightened must conquer the mind and senses by living in a solitary place. Now, he's talking about a particular school of thought of renunciation, where people go to be enlightened and go to a forest or go to a sacred river, and in that way, there's a certain practice in the yogic system. So he's going to describe that. It does not necessarily apply, but we can learn something from there. One who wishes to be enlightened must conquer the mind and senses by living in a solitary place, free from contaminated association. That's an important point here. What is your association? Who are the people you associate with? Are they spiritually inspiring you? Or are they dragging you towards more materialistic pursuits? Are they helping you become free of your mind and desires? Or are they taking you more and more onto that path? Are they taking you towards a path of sense enjoyment or helping you get free of that? You must choose your association wisely. To maintain the body, this person who's become a renunciate, who has renounced the world, may beg for the bare necessities of life. He should then practice meditation on the pranav or om. If you know about om, mention something in the comment. I'd love to know. Have you ever chanted om? Do you know what om is? If so, put it down in the comments. Om is written as O-M, but it is pronounced as You bring the energy all the way from down, all the way up. Aum. Aum. Focusing on the breath. As you breathe in, then you chant. As you exhale. You should then practice meditation on the pranava or om, control of the breath and senses, till the heart becomes fixed and free from disturbance, like a fire without flames or smoke. This is the purpose of meditation, to achieve that place where you are fixed on the mantra and you are free from disturbance in the mind, like a fire without flames or smoke. When one's consciousness is uncontaminated by material desire, it will become calm and peaceful in all activities, and one will be situated in eternal blissful life. Again, eternal blissful life, here and now. Okay, that's the point. Once situated on this platform, one will not return to materialistic activities. So he's giving a very powerful assurance. He says, however, but one who has renounced and then does return to materialistic activities or gives importance to the body and glorifies it as the self is to be called a vantashi, or one who eats his own vomit. He is indeed a shameless person if a person does that. A grihastha or householder who gives up the regulative principles, a student or brahmachari who does not follow his vows, a vanaprastha who engages in social activities, sanya, who's addicted to sense gratification, are to be considered bewildered by illusion or maya and must be considered to be a pretender. Taking compassion on such a person, one should, if possible, teach them to assume their original position. The human form of body is meant for understanding the self and the supreme self, the supreme Godhead, both of whom are transcendentally situated. Now, how do I understand something that is transcendental, that is beyond the ability of the mind, that is beyond the ability of the senses? How can I understand that? I cannot see my soul. I cannot see God. And yet both exist. They must exist. How does this body move? How can a body move that has got, unless it has life force within it? How can the world exist unless someone created it? Tell me. It's like me telling you this cell phone I have happened by accident, by a big bang. Really? In that case, give it to me for free. Right? It's just a big bang. I mean, yeah, it just happened. No one made it. But no, we know there's a big company. There are big, huge companies with thousands of people working in them, manufacturing those cell phones, those cars, even the houses you live in, the clothes you wear. There are people behind that. And you're telling me these trees, these animals, these human beings all just happened by accident, by chance, biochemical combinations? Hello? What kind of logic is this? Narad continues, the body is like a chariot. The senses are like the horses. The mind is the reins. The object of the senses are the destinations. Intelligence is the chariot driver, and consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, is either the cause of bondage or the cause of liberation from this world. You see, this body is a vehicle. And with the mind, we are meant to rein in the senses, not just let them go wild. Imagine what happens if you don't hold the steering wheel of your car, or if you were riding a horse and you didn't hold the reins of that horse. It would just go wild. It would go all over the place. And the same is happening to us because no one's ever taught us how to be able to control our senses, how to control our mind. No one's ever taught us. But we need to use intelligence. And what is that intelligence? That intelligence is the wisdom of the sages. And then we can purify the consciousness that lies within us, that spreads throughout this body. And that consciousness, instead of now becoming the cause of bondage to this world, will become the cause of liberation from this world, moksha. The living entity or soul is the owner of this chariot, says Narad. The Vedic mantra, pranava or om, is the bow. And the living entity himself is the arrow. So we are the arrow. And the target is the supreme being. Beautiful analogy. The living entity is the owner of this chariot, this vehicle, this body-mind organism that we live in. The Vedic mantra, pranava or om, is the bow, and the living entity is the arrow. The target is the supreme being. That is the goal of life. That is the target of human existence. That is the target of a civilized society. Moksha, liberation, love of God. Whatever name you give it, it doesn't matter. See, people have different names for God and they fight with each other. My religion is better than your religion. So who gives a damn about religion? God doesn't have a religion. That which created everything is beyond all religion, is beyond your beliefs, is beyond your thinking, is beyond your imagination even. And yet, that which created everything exists, is the most beautiful, has the most wonderful activities, and is the most adorable. So Narad then says, the conditioned living being polluted by the modes of ignorance and passion exhibits the symptoms of attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault-finding, deception, envy, intolerance, passion, bewilderment, hunger, and sleep. We all experience this, don't we? This means that our consciousness is polluted by what is referred to here as the mode of ignorance and passion. It is polluted. We need to understand that we are not in a good place. This is not a civilized society. This is not the way we should be living. To understand how we need to live is the whole point of this program here. I've been doing this now for the last few years. I've got tons of videos on my YouTube channel. You can just type in spiritual awakening and you'll find it. But you got to know. I'm sorry, did I say awakening? No. Spiritual actualization. Spiritual actualization. Or look for my name, Rohit Juneja. Or Spiritual Wisdom Channel, either one of these three. And you'll find me. But the point is to bring this knowledge to the world, because I see people following a spiritual path and doing utter nonsense. It's not helping them grow. It's not helping them evolve. It's not helping them. They talk these words, but what is growth? What is evolution? What is any of that? What does it look like? What are the standards? How do I know? Like if I want to go buy gold, I need to know what is the standard for gold or diamond or even a phone if I want to buy. Like what's a fake and what's real? I need to know. The Vedas, Veda means knowledge. Vedas are the ancient texts, the oldest texts in the world that were ever written, 5,000 years ago, 3000 BC. And these texts give us the gold standard for what spiritual advancement looks like. And they point out to us exactly where we're at. So if we fit the description of what I was reading earlier, then you got some work to do here. So he says all of these are enemies and must be conquered. What? All that lust, anger, greed, and all that stuff must be conquered by the blessings of the spiritual master, the guru, the sword of knowledge, and the mercy of the supreme Godhead. So these three factors, the blessings of the guru, the sword of knowledge, knowledge is what you're getting here, and the mercy of the supreme Godhead. Then one will regain his original spiritual identity and experience transcendental bliss. Now, this is such an important point here. We will regain our original spiritual identity. Right now, what is my identity? I think I'm a man. You think you're a woman. You think you're black, white, American, Indian, whatever else you might think. But that's not your spiritual identity. That's your body identity. But you're not the body. You're not the mind. You're not your story. You're not your life experience. You are a spiritual being having this experience. The spiritual being, that is your identity. To regain that original spiritual identity is the goal of our spirituality. To step back into that Satchitananda, to step into that blissfulness, to step into that consciousness, to step into that wisdom of who we are at the deepest level. You have to peel off all the layers of all that you think and all that you believe and all that you know. Then you will experience transcendental bliss. Narad says, if one is inattentive and allows the senses and intelligence and mind to wander on the path of sense gratification through eating, sleeping, and mating, then one will be thrown in a dark well of material existence and the extremely fearful situation of repeated birth and death. He says the Vedas speak of two paths, pravriti and nivriti. Pravriti involves raising oneself from a lower to a higher condition of materialistic life. That's what we're all doing, right? We're trying to raise our condition of materialistic life. We're trying to get a better job, trying to get business to make more money, whatever situation you're in, you want a higher condition of material life. That's called pravriti. Whereas nivriti means raising oneself to a higher condition of spiritual life through the cessation of material desire. Does it mean you can't have wealth? Absolutely, you can have it, but don't make it the goal of your life. Does it mean you can't have a house? No, but don't make that your identity. Does it mean you can't wear nice clothes? No, but don't identify with this body, mind, organism. This is not me. I am a spirit. I have a body. I am not my body. I have a mind, but I am not my mind. I have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. On the path of pravriti, that is the material advancement, one suffers material entanglement and therefore suffers overall. All suffering comes from this. But on the path of nivriti, the path of liberation, the path of freedom, one is purified and becomes fit to enjoy eternal blissful life. The living entity who identifies with the Supreme becomes transcendental. The living entity who identifies with the Supreme. So what he's saying here is that you, at a soul level, and God are no different in quality. You are qualitatively the same as God. Quantitatively, you are not. Just like a drop of water from the ocean has the same qualities as the ocean. It is salty, it is wet, right? But it does not have the same magnificence as the ocean. It does not have that same power as the ocean. Similarly, you and I, we can't create planets. We can't create anything, really. I mean, you got to work hard for everything you do. Can you just go and say, I want to manifest a house or a car? No. I got to work hard for it. I got to go by the laws of this world. There's other people who dictate how much money I can earn and how much money I can't earn. I'm not in control. I'm no God. But that which is called, referred to as God, can manifest things with no effort. At the same time, we have those tendencies. We want to manifest things. We want to create worlds. We want to create a wonderful environment for ourselves. Truly, because we are godly in nature, because that is our true essence. And at the same time, we are not God. We have the qualities, but not the quantity. Let's put it that way. The living entity who identifies with the Supreme has become transcendental. So when you realize God and I are one of the same nature, you have become transcendental. He is truly aware of the absolute truth and is never bewildered in this world. He who exists internally and externally at the beginning and end of everything, he, that is to say the divine God, who exists internally, meaning within us and all around us, in every atom of the creation, the energy of this universe, that is God. The energy that is within us, that is God. And yet God exists separate from it all. As a being, as the light, as energy, as everything. So he who exists internally and externally, who exists at the beginning and the end of everything, who is enjoyable and is the enjoyer of everything, is the supreme truth. He always exists. He is the object of knowledge and understanding. He is darkness and light and the supreme lord of everything. O great King Yudhishthir, because of your service to the Supreme Lord, you and your brothers defeated the greatest dangers posed by numerous kings and demigods. By serving the lotus feet of Krishna, you conquered the great enemies. By his grace, may you be delivered from material entanglement. Please keep writing your comments. I love some of you have already started writing down stuff. I'd love to read them later. I'll be done in just a few minutes, and then I'm going to take up your questions. So just a few more minutes, all right? So then Narad goes on to talk about a time when he was a Gandharva. This is an earlier lifetime, in another millennium, millions of years ago, in a previous life. And he was known as Upabarhan. He says, I had a beautiful face and body. I was most pleasing to the women of my city. And being bewildered, I was always filled with lusty desires. One day there was a Kirtan festival. Now, Kirtan is where you chant the names of the divine, of God. You can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, or any other such mantra, glorifying the Supreme Lord. There was a Kirtan going on. The Devas, the demigods, such as Shiva and Brahma and all the great Prajapatis were all there. He says, I went there surrounded with women and began dancing the glories and singing the glories of the Devas, of the demigods. But because of my misbehavior, I was cursed to take birth, devoid of my beauty, to a maidservant on earth. In that birth, he says, I served the devotees of Vishnu. And so that's how he became free of that earlier mistake that he had made. And in his next birth, he was born as the son of Brahma. The process of chanting the Lord's name, or the divine name, the name of God, is so powerful that even one who is a householder, family person, can attain the ultimate result achieved by those who are renounced. He says, my dear King Yudhishthir, you and your brothers are most fortunate in this world because many great saints come to your house just like ordinary visitors. Furthermore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives with you just like your brother, your best well-wisher, your friend, your cousin, your heart and soul, and your spiritual master. I mean, you are so incredibly blessed that he's living, he's incarnated and he's living in your home. Krishna is the Parabrahman, the source of everything, who is sought by great sages for the sake of liberation and transcendental bliss, is present here now. His true form cannot be understood even by great personalities such as Brahma and Shiva. He is realized by devotees because of their unflinching surrender. See, he is giving you here the key. The path to understanding the divine is surrender, unflinching surrender. May that Supreme Being who is the maintainer of his devotees and who is worshipped by silence, by devotion, and by cessation of material activities be pleased with us. Narad Muni, being worshipped by King Yudhishthir, bade farewell and went away. Yudhishthir, having heard that Krishna, his cousin, is the Supreme Godhead, was struck with wonder. With that, we end the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam. For those of you that are new here, I thank you for joining us. And I'm going to look into seeing if there's any questions around, see if you guys had anything that you thought about. All right, I have one comment here. This is by Carrie. Carrie, welcome. So good to have you here today. She says, if you don't identify with material things, then you're free. Yes, this is so important to understand. This is a thing that no one's telling us these days. If we don't identify with the stuff of the world, we are free. And it begins with not identifying with this body. So right now you may be caught up in some issues around gender or around race. You are not your body. And therefore you are not your race. You are not your gender. You are not even this age. You are not even any of these things. You are not your possessions. You are not your, you see, peel away all these things. It's called naiti, na-iti. I am not this. I am not this. I am not this. I am not this. Just do this for yourself. Peel away all the layers of who you think you are. So ask yourself, who do I think I am? Oh, I'm a business person, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a, peel that off. Oh, I'm so many years old. Peel that off. Then ask yourself, oh, I'm, whatever it is you think you are, peel it off. Take away all the layers, all of them, one by one by one by one by one. And then come to what remains. What you are, you cannot see. What you are, you do not know. You may say, oh, I'm a soul, because you've read it somewhere. That's not enough. You must feel this soul. You must experience this soul. And if that's who you are, then stop identifying with the rest of it. Make this your true identity and live from here. Learn how to connect with this part of you. Learn how to be identified with it. Learn that no one can harm you as a soul. No one can kill you. No one can harm you. No, any insult somebody gives, any kind of bad thing that happens, any kind of good thing that happens, the soul is unaffected by it. The soul is by nature happy. It doesn't need anything to happen, and nothing good or bad can change how it feels. That's the beauty of who you are. You are eternally blissful. And that's the realization that needs to happen. Not just once in a while, not just for a few seconds, but always. It starts with a few seconds, of course. It starts by just even contemplating the idea or the possibility. But ultimately, it's about really getting it. All right, any further questions? Well, okay. Then I thank you for being here. I so appreciate your presence. Please watch the other videos. If you haven't watched the Bhagavad Gita, watch that first, then go on to others. Thank you for being here. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.